You're listening to TurkishSoccer.com's Turkish Football Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to summer edition of Turkish Football Podcast. My name is Ahmet Bob Turgut. Next 15 minutes, I'll give you inside news and notes from Turkey, Turkish football, and Turkish Super League in general. So let's start with the national team, because the last podcast that I was talking about the Turkish national team matches, they played 4 games and they won all of their 4 matches. And they scored 14 goals in 4 matches. As you know, I mentioned this before, Turkey is in the League C. We're not in League B or League A anymore, because the reason why last couple of years, at least a year or so, Turkish national team has not been doing good. That's one of the reasons why the Turkish national team is not going to the World Cup this coming year. So that is why they're in the League C. But one thing, kudos to Stefan Kuntz. He's putting out their brand new youngsters, brand new team. It's going to take some time to bring that quality players and quality matches. And because, let's face it, in the League C, there's town teams, actually. A country's very small population where Turkish national team is playing against. But overall, they're in the first place in the League C, in the Nations League. And the games will recess in this coming September. So Turkey is in the first place in the League C group with 12 points, and Luxembourg is the second place with 7 points. So it really doesn't make any difference. But I think if Stefan Kuntz makes a good rotations with these youngsters and get them experience, have them work hard when they're in the national team, we might see bright stars coming up like Ferdi and other players. So kudos to the young Turks winning their 4 matches in the Nations League. Well, as far as the things, news, what's happening around the Turkish Super League, as I was saying when I did the last podcast, we're talking about Galatasaray was in chaos. I told you that Torrent most likely was going to be sacked. That's what happened this week. And the new CEO, as you know, the elections were done. New CEO, President Dursun Ozbek, met with Dome Torrent and his lawyers, his agents, and they decided to sack Dome Torrent. And as far as the money issue, I think this case is going to go to FIFA, because I'm sure Torrent and his people would want the money that Galatasaray owed him, because his contract was a year and a half. So look for later on Torrent and his manager going into FIFA and going to court with Galatasaray. And Dursun Ozbek hired Cenk Ergün as sports director for Galatasaray team. And just today, it's official, and they will make it official on Friday. They will announce former Galatasaray player Okan Buruk as their new coach. And Okan Buruk will be coaching Galatasaray this coming season. Also, another news, I think it's a big news. Turkish Football Clubs Association decided to have Ali Koç as their CEO for the Turkish Football Clubs Association. So he will be the CEO president this coming season. And there was new elections in the Turkish Football Federation. We have a new president of Turkish football, and TFF boss will be Mehmet Büyükekşi. So write his name down. Mehmet Büyükekşi will be the boss of Turkish Football Federation. And another news, this got a lot of attention from the foreign media. Pirlo signed as a coach with Fatih Karagümrük. So Pirlo will be coaching this coming season. Fatih Karagümrük, he signed a contract for 1 year. So we have quite a changes as far as coaches. Kayserispor also has a new coach. Çağdaş Atan will be the new coach for Kayserispor. And that's pretty much. And the transfer talks, the most interesting one, I think this is going to be happening because what I'm hearing from Grapevine, the sources from Turkish media, Emre Mor, Fatih Karagümrük player that is playing for Fatih Karagümrük, might play for Fenerbahçe. Look for that announcement coming up, and we'll see what happens. Overall, let me close down. Pretty much this is what I have for you. As you know, next season, Beşiktaş has a former foreign coach, Valérien Ismail. Fenerbahçe just hired for 1 year Jorge Jesus with 1 year contract, €7 million worth this contract. So we have Beşiktaş with Valérien Ismail, Fenerbahçe with Jorge Jesus, and Galatasaray with Okan Buruk, and Fatih Karagümrük with Pirlo, and the defending champions, Trabzonspor, will still have Abdullah Avcı. These are the coaches that will battle, and there's many coaches that will battle next season in the Turkish Super League. But here's my thing. My opinion, I'll close this short podcast of mine. And just to remind you, instead of doing the podcast weekly, I will be with you on Twitter at Turkish Soccer, maybe daily or every other couple days for short 2 or 3 minutes audio, like a podcast version program on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll hear me on Twitter. If you don't, please follow me on Twitter at Turkish Soccer. So I want to close this with my opinion in the general. Especially, I want to start with Galatasaray. Guys, you guys know me in my podcast. I've been saying that Galatasaray has been in chaos for a long time. Chaos started with Fatih Terim when he was doing very bad in the Turkish Super League, but he was getting good results in the Europa League. Let's give him that credit. It was one huge mistake was to sack him the way they sacked him. I think Burak Elmas and his committee, the former CEO of Galatasaray, Burak Elmas and his committee, made a huge mistake. At least they should have waited for the Barcelona match and the Europa League matches. And the way that they got Dome Torrent, they went run behind Fatih Terim and talk to Dome Torrent. They should have been honest with Fatih Terim. They should have told him that they were going to sack him and they were looking for coaches. That was number one mistake. Let me tell you this. I said this in Turkish on Twitter. 2 mistakes doesn't make one right decision. That was the number one mistake that they made as Galatasaray officials. Now, the second mistake that the current administration, Dursun Ozbek, CEO of Galatasaray, and his committee, only been there, 6-7 days. Without talking to Dome Torrent, they went around him. Remember, Dome Torrent, whether you like him or not, Dome Torrent was still the coach of Galatasaray when Dursun Ozbek and his committee took over Galatasaray. They should have talked to Dome Torrent about his contract before he went around to talk to Okan Buruk. This was in the media. This was all over. People were talking on Clubhouse. They were talking on Twitter Spaces. This was known. Some journalists welcomed Okan Buruk without they have signed a contract. That was the number 2 mistake. That's why I say 2 mistakes are not going to make one right decision. They made second mistake. This current new administration made a huge mistake again, just like when Burak Elmas made a mistake. Now, another thing, in the beginning of the season, when Fatih Terim was doing bad in the Turkish Super League, in the standings, they were like 11th, 10th, 12th place. When Fatih Terim left the team, the Galatasaray team was pretty much in the relegation zone. And the people want Fatih Terim to sack. Now, they want Fatih Terim to come back. And the current administration already said that in the beginning, before the elections, they did not want to hire Fatih Terim. There's still people out there, Galatasaray fans. I agree. Fatih Terim is one of the most successful coaches in Turkey, especially with Galatasaray team. He was also successful with Turkish national team. But you got to remember, it is not the coaches this season that made Galatasaray in this position. It is not enough quality players, especially in the midfield. That's what happened. So in general, I have been saying this in this podcast many times. All these teams are owned by banks. Come July, August, September, they have to pay big bucks to the banks. So bringing in these having elections every year, every 9 months, every year and a half, it's not going to help these teams and also these Turkish football teams. It is not going to help. As it is, Turkish football teams, especially Beşiktaş, Fenerbahçe, and Galatasaray, are in deep trouble with financially. So it is up to them. That's why Turkish Football Federation this season told the teams to how much they could spend. I was looking at that list. It's still too much for teams to spend that much while they don't have the money. I think the problems and chaos still going to go on with Galatasaray. And I think Fenerbahçe paid too much money for the coach. They have a good team. Beşiktaş hasn't done any transfers because of the financial situation. Trabzonspor, they lost Wakeme. He will not be playing with the team. So we're going to see a lot of things changing, a lot of surprise stuff in the Turkish Super League next season. So catch me on Twitter at turkishsoccer.com. And if you're not on Twitter, please join me on Twitter at turkishsoccer.com. See you next time. Bye-bye.